Hello and welcome to the walk off, everybody. I'm trying an intro over again. This is why we're smiling right now. I kind of butchered Tyson's name here, but I am very excited for today's episode. My name is Scott Belford. This is the walk off. We watched our Blue Jays fail miserably in a doubleheader yesterday, and so I figured we'd bring in the big guns and dive in to exactly what happened here. So excited to be joined by today's guest, writer and editor with Blue Jays Nation and the Canadian Baseball Network, Tyson Shushkewich. Welcome to the walk off. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, thanks.
Did
Thanks
I
for
get
having
it
me.
this time,
You
Shushkewich?
you nailed it.
See, this is the thing. We talked before I hit record here, Tyson, and I got your name. We went over it. We had a nice little conversation about how people always screw your name up, and I promised I wouldn't. And then I did right out of the gate after already being told the right way to say it. So I feel like two strikes to get it right in baseball. We're kind of nailing it, right?
Well,
I
and then
I saw a
you
few
hit a double to the
pitches.
gap. You hit a double to the gap. We'll take it.
Double to the gap. We're gonna take it. By the way, Tyson, honestly, man, I really enjoy your content. I love your Twitter. I really enjoy your articles as well. You have this really good way. I read one. It would have been a couple weeks ago, I think, after the Brave series, and you've got a really good way of kind of recapping what went on and getting the quotes and stuff in. But also, I am excited for now what after I read the article. So well done, man. I do enjoy your
Yeah.
stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, we the Nation Network we actually put things in motion this year where we actually started getting media credentials. So um I'm myself and Mitch Bannon before he
Hmm.
got the opportunity with the Athletic, he was writing for us and we were both able to go down for the month of April this past month to do media content down there and be part of the managers meetings and interview players before and after the game and be part of all the media scrums and whatnot. So
Which is
we're hoping that
huge.
continue.
Like a
Yeah,
really
it's
nice step
big,
forward
huge.
for the nation. Absolutely.
Yeah, we put a lot of really, a lot of hard work in from our end. My next up bosses with ULP Nation Network and under the Better Collective. So we're just trying to get people the most content that we can. And we know that like in the space, like there's like the Sportsnets and the Toronto Stars and all these like massive publications, and we kind of fall under more of the blog sphere, but you've kind of seen that we're trying to take things to the next level when it comes to we interview a lot of prospects
Hmm.
and kind of give them their moment to shine. We have some really good connections with just kind of agents and coaches and whatnot to kind of get those different perspectives and we really branch out too when it comes to we do a lot of Blue Jays, but then we also have some people who are really dedicated to covering Canadian content. So
Hmm.
players, Canadian baseball players in college and in the States, Canadian baseball players with the junior national team.
Hmm.
We have one gentleman who actually works for the Vancouver Canadians out there doing, I think it's PR or something, and he writes like specific stories for them because he's there all the time. Like we
Yeah.
got a lot of really good content coming out, and it's just kind of another level with being at the field and being able to kind of do the news breaks as they come out and do all these in-person things. So we're just trying to take it to the next level, and we got a really good group. So
I love it, man, honestly. And I mean, we here on the walk off too. This is one thing that we really pride ourselves on is getting in and talking to some of these prospects and stuff. So it's really cool to like watch another group of people get in there and talk to these guys that I'm so interested to talk to, because that is one side of the Blue Jays that maybe doesn't get enough of a light shone on. It is kind of that affiliate stuff. And again, your work with the Canadian Baseball Network is fantastic and definitely something that we don't see enough of around the country.
yeah, it's always good. The Canadian Baseball Network, Bob Elliott's just such like a driving force
Oh,
on that topic, right? And
legend.
and Kevin Glue too. Like there's
Absolutely.
not a person out there that knows more Blue Jays birthdays than Kevin Glue and so many fun stats, right? Like
Yes.
just super nice people. It's, again, a really good group that just is able to kind of give the shining moment, right? Because back in the day, like the thing with Canada was is baseball players like it was tough to get noticed because half the seasons under snow you can't play anyway, right?
Hmm.
And then you had a couple of people really succeed in the draft when it came to like Joey Votto and like Jeff Francis, like all these guys getting drafted high and then finding success, like and then now you're seeing so many travel teams pop up where so many successful players are getting drafted each year. Like at least what was it, 14 Canadians have been drafted in the past few years. Some really high picks too, like
Hmm.
Dante Nori last year. He technically is Canadian, right? And he was first round. You had the Naylor brothers, right? Like there's so it's getting better too. That's the crazy thing. There's so many talented Canadians out there that are just getting better. So it's good to see them getting their
Yeah, there's
momentum.
just more systems pumping out college kids now around the country, which is nice to see, like the
Yeah.
Okotoks Dogs and
Yeah.
Volhawks, and
Yeah. The last count, I think it was heading into 2025, there was over 1,100 kids playing some sort of affiliated ball for a JUCO program or
incredible.
NAIA program up, and that's huge. That's just huge.
Massive steps forward for Canadian baseball. You love to see it. Can you tell everyone that Tyson and I aren't biting at the bit here to jump into talking the Blue Jays and what happened yesterday?
Right?
So Tyson, I listen, I try as a diehard baseball fan and someone who has watched the game for 30 plus years, I'm well aware. April 28th, there's lots of reasons why you look at this Blue Jays team that's 13 and 15. You look at the schedule that they've had this month, and you kind of need to reconcile your emotions of after just watching that doubleheader and try and put things into context a little bit. So I will ask you, how dire is where we're at right now? Like when you look at this team's offense and the lack of scoring, obviously there's some real concerns there. But at the same time, for all the reasons I just said, it's probably not time to quite hit the panic button yet. Where are you at on the 2025 Blue Jays and this offense in general?
Yeah, you're definitely not hitting the panic button yet. I think when you look at this organization as a whole, I think what's frustrating the most is that, last winter, when Justin Turner and Kevin Kiermaier, like these are your guys you bring in, right? You're kind of like, right? Like that's not moving the needle. And then the offense did exactly what they did outside of Guerrero Jr. And I know Bichette was hurt, right? But
Yeah.
we saw really with some regression from Springer. Alejandro Kirk didn't fare too well. Dalton Varsho was, I think, almost 20 homers or just over, but he was hitting like just over 200, right?
Yeah.
So it was frustrating, right? And then they threw in the towel, and then you went into this winter and you address some of those needs, right? Like Anthony Santander is the guy that is supposed to fix that issue. And, he is a notoriously slow starter. The Blue Jays have faced some strong teams with some good pitchers, right? Like Spencer Schwallenbach, Strider,
Hmm.
the Mariners, everything they threw at them, right? Like, and they've found success in some areas and they haven't found it in others. But the problem is that they're playing kind of just like boring baseball, right? And what I mean by that is it's not like, the game is exciting, but they're winning the tight games that are like 3-2 and 2-1 in some cases, but then they go and they get blown out 11-2. Like, you know what I mean? They then go and get just absolutely smoked, and you're not seeing them do the opposite, right? You're not
Hmm.
seeing the Blue Jays win a game really like 11-2 or something like that. I think the biggest margin they had was early in the season against the Orioles. They were like they're just not hammering down on people or on teams, sorry. They're not hammering down, they're not putting their, foot down and just throttling these teams. They're winning some of those close games, but they're also losing some of them, and that's why we're seeing them, they're under 500, but at the same time they're just not finding as much success from the bats to supplement the strong pitching out of the gate, right? Like that's why they rank so low in runs. They rank high in doubles, they suck in home run. Like they're just
Hmm.
not playing exciting baseball, and at the
I
same
mean,
time when you lose those games.
boring baseball is the best way to sum this up. Honestly, I mean, if
Yeah.
you look at yesterday, right? They were outscored 16-3. How is that exciting in any way? That's 18 innings of baseball with 3 runs. And I mean, even if you wish to go further than that, right? And you wish to go and look at Friday's game that they won, it was 1 inning. It was like one
Yeah.
inning of excitement, basically, right? Like, it's they're in a weird spot, and I do wonder. We're going to talk about a specific moment right now because I really would love. I haven't had a chance to talk about this with anyone yet, and I want to know Tyson.
Okay.
Kevin Gosman,
Right.
3rd inning, 53 pitches. And I know after the game, we watched Caleb Joseph kind of tear Kirky apart a little bit, right? Now, a few things about that post game show, I will say. Love Caleb Joseph. Um, I also love that he still has his pitchers back, like
Yeah.
darn well that he caught Gauzy and he has that ties with him. And you always hear about the battery mates and how a catcher will go to bat, a good catcher will go to bat for his pitcher no matter what, right? So I think there is a little bit of that. So I do want your opinion on what was your thoughts on letting Kevin Gausman go 53 pitches in that third inning. I want to know your thoughts on just Kirk not going out to it for a mound visit. Pete Walker not going out for a mound visit. You kind of felt like he was just flailing in the wind, like they kept hoping he was one strike away from getting out of it, almost like if you just ignore doing the Major League Baseball thing they love to do, right, where there's a problem and you just ignore it and hope it goes away, right, and then next thing you know
Right.
you're suspending pitchers for sticky stuff. But it's a muddy metaphor here, but you know what I'm saying, right? He was really kind of out there for such a long time and no one came to talk to him, and he wound up walking it a bunch of runs. What was your opinion on that? What happened in that third inning, Tyson?
I think, he got the quick out and then things just started to unravel, right? Like, and it's frustrating because Gosman's a veteran guy. Like, he's not new, right? Like, he's
No,
he's
of
been around the
course.
block a few times, right? And so I think the one thing that obviously derailed, I think, a lot of this was the missed calls, right? Like, there's a couple strikes that
Yeah.
could have gone the other, or balls, sorry, that could have gone the other way. And but the part of the game is you're not going to get those, right? Like, and we know that, right? And
Yeah.
ABS is going to come in the near future, and that's going to go away to a certain extent, right? And pitch framing is not going to matter, right? Like, it's at the end of the day, but we live in the now, and I think just a lot of things went wrong in that inning. I'm kind of in the minority when it comes to leaving Gosman in. I think leaving Gosman in for that long was kind of needed. He's a veteran guy. You kind of think he can get out of that situation when things aren't going our way, right? Like, if this is
Hmm.
Yariel Rodriguez or Schultz, like, I I digress and I go, okay, maybe we divert a little quicker, right? Once he walks like the third guy or
Of
something, you're like,
course.
okay, now we're struggling, right? But the problem is that the Blue Jays entering this next week, like, they have to make some decisions when it comes to the rotation, right? Like, Paxton Schultz was a guy that you were potentially lining up for later this week, and he
Yeah.
just threw 40, and you're like, he's probably not going to be good to go, even with the off day
Yeah.
today. Like, like, and maybe he is, right? And who knows, right? And I think the problem that the Blue Jays have is that they now need to call upon someone to come either fill in the gap, or they need to do a bullpen day, and bullpen days suck. Like, the reason they left Gosman in was to be like, yeah, we need you to get out of this because we need some assistance further down the line, and it didn't happen, right? And I think
even
that's where
less further down the line, staring
yeah,
down the barrel of a doubleheader, you're also thinking just in the now, in that day, in that moment.
100%. And they didn't call up a pitcher, right? They called up Class A, right?
Hmm.
Which is interesting because usually, like, 90% of the time teams call up another pitcher because they're like, we will abuse this arm, and then back down you go, right? And
Yeah.
that didn't happen unless they were like, Class A, or Berger, we need you to throw an inning here because you throw 90 plus. But you know what I mean? And I think what just a lot of things went wrong that inning, right? Like, no one went out and talked to Gosman. They should have, after the walk or two, he was starting to get a little frustrated. Like, someone's got to go and calm him down, right?
Hmm.
Like, that's just a breather moment. That's excusing the veteran aspect of it. Like, he is a veteran guy, bite on your mouth guard and keep going. But you also just got to go out there and be like, hey, let's calm this down. Let's let's get in the moment. We things haven't gone our way, but let's figure it out. And then, who knows? Maybe he goes back and Cody Bellinger hits a home run. And so, like, you'll never know the answer. But
Hmm.
I think letting Gosman go for as long as he did was just a way to save for the later, right? Because let's put it this way: in the doubleheader, what happens? Bassett comes out and takes a comebacker in the second inning. Well, now you're really screwed, right? Like, so you're playing a little bit of that game of, like, we need to save some arms for later, but you're also living in the now of, like, if Gosman goes too far and this gets out of hand, which it did, then you can't come back. So it's a tough split.
It is a tough split, and obviously hindsight is 2020. Like we
100%.
are we are looking at this already knowing what went on. Would have you preferred to see them slow it down a little for Gauzy? Like, would have you liked to have seen Kirky go out there, or Pete go out there and just kind
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Yeah, like after the second walk, like even when things were kind of just starting to unravel like a little like out of the gate, like before they even I think played or when they played the one run, like it was just like, okay, now you gotta slow it down a little.
Yeah.
Like just even just throw the momentum off, right? And again, you let Gosman have a little bit of a leash because he is that veteran guy. He's your go-to, right? Like
Yeah.
If the Blue Jays were to play a postseason game right now, the two guys you would lean on are Gosman and Bassett, right? Like these are the two guys you would turn to. And so he's got that wiggle room to get a little bit more length out of him, and that's why he was in there for as long as he was. But at the same time, he's a human, right? Like he's getting a little riled up. He's not getting some calls going his way, and this inning should have ended by now, but it's not. And but that's the game, right? That's what happens. So I think someone has to just go and slow it down, and hopefully switch that mindset back, even if it's mid batter, right? Like we've seen that before, where you throw two balls and your catcher runs out and is like,
Yeah.
hey, let's talk about this, right? And that just it didn't happen. It's a bit of a I don't know. It's just maybe you're thinking so much about the two games ahead that you're not thinking he got to go talk to the guy. I don't know. It's weird. The Blue Jays usually send, Kirk's been out,
Yeah.
mound visits all the time. Pete Walker
Yeah.
always goes out. Like it's not like not like they don't do it, but
And
I don't know.
it did feel weird. It did feel weird for a few reasons. Number one, even though he gave up 6 runs, it really felt like he was on the verge of getting out of it the whole time, which I think was part of the problem as to why they didn't send anyone out there. But then on top
Mhm.
of that, the missed calls also felt like another reason to go out there and calm him down. Like he was
Right.
pretty fired up, and you almost want to go out there and just be like, all right, dude, like you did have him. Like, let's breathe. Let's get
Well,
back
and
in there.
we've seen it before where Pete Walker goes out there and it's been a tough time, and he's walking back and he gets tossed, right? Like,
Hmm.
and that kind of takes the heat off your guy who's out there, right? Like, and we've seen that before. And I'm not saying Pete Walker's gonna go out there and like fight an umpire, but
No,
you know what I mean. But I think just there's a few things there that derailed the situation.
it felt like the ball was dropped a little bit.
Yeah, and I think again, hindsight's easier to say that Schneider screwed up and should have taken him out
Of
earlier, right?
course.
But I think when you look at the future, look at the guy on the mound. There was ways that you could have alleviated some of that pressure that at least would have made the outing not feel as gross, right? Like if Kirk goes out there and Cody Bellinger hits a home run, like it is what it is. If P. Walker goes out there and Gosman walks the next two batters, like at least that the effort was made, and you can start finger pointing wherever you want. And if Schneider had let him go another batter, does he get out of that inning instead of Schultz doing what he like? It's There's so many what ifs out there. But again, when you lose a game like that, it's you look back and you go, oh, this manager sucks and blah blah blah. But again, there's more at play, right? Like Paxton Schultz is needed later this maybe
Hmm.
needed later this week, right? Like maybe he was going to go for the second game. Like they came in with these game plans, and having Gosman come out of the third inning was probably not part of it. So
Could not agree more. And for those of you listening right now, the grounds crew members, feel free to drop your comments below here, and Adam and I will tackle this in mailbag. Would love to hear your thoughts on Kevin Gosman and what went down in that third inning. 53 pitches, which, by the way, Tyson, was like the third most in Blue Jay history in an inning.
it was like I think what was it? It tied. It
Yeah,
tied Woodward or oh, what's his name? It's gonna bug me.
Woody.
Yeah, Woody. Yeah, it
Woody
tied
Williams.
Woody Williams. Yeah, it tied Woody Williams because at first I think they said it was first. It was leading, and then they were like, oh no, it actually tied. It tied
Yeah, yeah.
now.
Which just wild, especially with
Yeah.
Gauzy, like you kind of put it up, you summed it up really well, right? Like if there's a playoff game tomorrow, he's our guy. So,
Yeah, he's one of the guys you think of, and
mhm,
it's just I don't know. His command has been well this year, and then just again, it's frustrating to not get those calls,
mhm.
right? Like it's obvious, but that it's part of the game. So until the ABS thing comes around and cleans that up, which I'm an advocate for because it holds people accountable, right? And when you saw in spring training where umpires were like screwing up multiple times, it was like, really, like what are you doing here? Like, so I'm all for the accountability side of it. It's just unfortunately we're not there yet, right? So.
The American League is a really interesting topic right now because it's wide open. It is wide open. I mean, even honestly, Tyson, you look at the Blue Jays right now, 13 and 15. They're the fourth worst record in the American League behind the Twins and the White Sox and and crazily enough, the Orioles, whose pitching has completely fallen apart on them. What is your thoughts on this American League? I mean, the Yankees kind of lead the way 17 and 11, but even the Jays are only 4 games back of that. And I mean, it is April 28th here. Do you think this is going to be the case all year long? I guess is my question. Do you think that this American League has the horses in it for a couple teams to pull away? Or do you think we're going to really watch a dogfight most of the season when it comes to at least the wild card spots?
Yeah, I think I mean even when you look at the National League, right? Like the wild card usually is always coming down to the last few days. And I think the American League is just such a different animal because for so long the Central Division was like a walking ground, right? You knew there was teams going to be down here, and then you knew like the Guardians were fighting whoever was feeling like good that year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's what it's been like for like the past like decade. And now you're seeing teams like the Royals, put things together at time like last year, right? And you're seeing these teams that just normally aren't in it like they are just starting to figure it out. And the American League West is always unique, right? And I think what's different this year with the Houston Astros losing who they did, and it's just so much going on when it comes to just how it all shakes up. And the American League East, it's so unique, right? Like we saw the Baltimore Orioles lead for a while there, and then the Yankees stormed up, and last year, sorry, and then so now you're seeing the Yankees obviously the solid start. The Orioles are kind of struggling, and it's like part of you thinks it's early, right? So you're like,
Hmm.
oh, it's there's so much time to turn around. We've seen the Blue Jays in September win 20 plus games and go to the postseason, right? Like so, I think there's a mentality of like, yeah, it's early. Yes, you can still do it. And the Blue Jays for their they've had a pretty strong schedule. The only team they have played really that hasn't had the postseason contention aspect was the Nationals, right?
Yeah.
And I know the Atlanta Braves are not the team that they were when they faced them, but they still got a good team. Like, and Spencer Strider returned
Yeah.
when he played the Blue Jays, right? Like so I think there's a lot of aspects that strength of schedule plays into it. It's not a cop out. You still have to win those games if you want to be a team that's going to make it to the postseason. But I think I think what's key for the Blue Jays, at least in the American League East, is when they face these teams that they need to beat them, right? And we saw that with the Nationals. And we saw that with, even the Orioles when they split that first homestand and they got rocked in the first game, they came back, right? They were like,
Yeah.
those are the things that you need to win to be a postseason contending team. But you also need to win the games where like Clark Schmidt's on the mound and he's sucked for his first 2 games, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden he looks like a Cy Young winner, and the only person
Yeah.
who gets anything off him is Santana. Like those are the games you also have to win, and we're seeing that side of it too. So I think in terms of the American League, it's always a dogfight, especially within the American League East. I think the wild card is 100% up for grabs, but I think also there's so much left in play that things can happen. Like if Tariq Skubal takes a pitch off the arm and he's done for the season, like the Tigers are go like, oh crap, right? Like Jose Ramirez on the Guardians goes down. Like there's and we saw that last year with the Blue Jays and Bichette, right?
Yeah.
Like a key guy went down, and I'm not saying he would have saved the season, but he definitely would have had a it would have been a better team. He was there. So
For
I
sure.
think there's a lot of proving ground left. Hopefully Anthony Santander lives up to his hype of being a guy that figures it out in May and beyond. And
Hmm.
it's going to be interesting come the trade deadline to see where things are shaking up.
I mean, they go into this series against Boston starting on Tuesday, and the truth is that they still could literally come out of April a 500 team, which again, if you look at the strength of this schedule, I said it at the beginning of the year, man. And this is where as a fan it's tough because I said, "You know what? I'm going to be happy if they come out of April 500." But here we are coming out of 500 or coming out of April right around there. I'm not happy, Tyson. I'm just worried.
Yeah, and I think it just goes back again. It's the way they're losing games, right? And it's the way that they're playing. They're not playing. I think I wrote an article last week. It's like if the Blue Jays hit a double and a home run. I get the time they had like 12. It was like 11 or 12 wins. Yeah, it was 12 wins. It was right before they went on the road. Every game that they hit at least one double and one home run, they had won 6 of their games, right? And
Hmm.
that's just one double and one home run. And then they had 2 games where they had one where they only hit singles and nothing more. They had a couple games where they hit just a double and no home run, and it's just not exciting, right? Like, and for the first multi home run of the game of the year to come midway through the year is crazy, right? And I think at the same time you're also people remember, the years of Teoscar Hernandez and Marcus Semien and these guys hitting 40 plus home runs and being near the top and that's exciting, right? Like hitting home runs is fun and it's exciting and hitting slap doubles to the gap and leaving guys in scoring position is not exciting, right? So I think there's just some things the Blue Jays need to iron out a little bit. Again, they have a new hitting coach who's in there, putting some different perspective on things. We're seeing George Springer doing his A
Yeah.
swing, right? Like Ben Nicholson Smith wrote a really good article about how they're really with Springer, they're going for the A swing. And we know the whiffs are going to come with it, but we also seen him hit some monsters. So
Hmm.
I think things will, yeah, again, you got to go back to these guys and look at Guerrero and Springer and Kirk and Bichette, and they're not new guys, right? Like they're not, Rodon, you could be like, okay, he's figuring it out. He's a rookie. He started off okay. He's kind of struggling right now. Like, what do we do? Andres Jimenez, like he started off strong. Now he's struggling, but he's a
Hmm.
veteran guy. He needs to get back in there and figure out a way to bring his bat over the Mendoza line, right? And all that's doing is proving that he wasn't able to figure it out in Cleveland, and now he's not doing it here, right? And even
Yeah.
though he started so strong, right? So I think there's a lot of perspective when it comes to, it's just the way they're losing games is not fun. They're getting bludgeoned sometimes with the double digits. There's leaving runners on base. There's just so many and wasted opportunities, right? And they've won a few close games, the onesie twosies, 2-1s, 3-1s, but at the end of the day, they just need a win. They need one game where they just win 15-0 and everyone will go, okay, we feel better. But it just doesn't
Yeah.
look like it's coming, right? That's the problem.
Honestly, Tyson, you're really hitting the nail on the head here. A little bit of confidence in this offense would go a long way for this team. And I mean, you look at this. So here's a question for you, all right? Like you brought up Andres Jimenez, Alejandro Kirk, Will Wagner, Alan Roden, Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas, Miles
The bottom
Straw,
the
Tyler
bottom five.
Heineman, Addison Barger. And that's what I was just going to say. You can take all of those names, and at any given time, five of them are in the bottom five of this lineup. Do you believe in those guys? Listen, going into the season, some of these guys had big springs. Some of there was reason for optimism. But I do wonder if maybe too much emphasis has been put on that group of players to excel, and we as fans and maybe even the organization was a little bit bullish on a group that are either still developing or are marginal players. What are your thoughts on the bottom of this batting order, and if it will all work out, or if we're in kind of choppy waters here when it comes to what can be done?
I think I think in the grand scheme of things, you can have a bottom of the lineup that has guys like Jimenez, Alejandro Kirk, Will Wagner, and stuff, because the top half of your lineup should be doing the heavy lifting,
Hmm.
right? You see teams across the league where it's like the top three or four guys are the ones absolutely destroying the ball, killing it, scoring 75% of the runs. And the bottom three or four guys are like fringe 200 guys, but the teams are still winning because the top half of the lineup is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And the problem is that we haven't seen that from the
Hmm.
Blue Jays yet. And that's making it difficult because now you're shifting that emphasis of going, okay, now we need more production from the Miles Straws and the Rodans and the Will Wagners, right? And that's not a knock on them. Like they all
No,
bring
not at
something to
all.
the
Not at
table, right?
all.
But at the end of the day, like George Springer is paid big money to hit the baseball a long way and play good right field defense. And we didn't see that last year. And we're kind of seeing it to start this season, right? He's one of the better hitters on the team.
Hmm.
Awesome. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was, a little bit slow out of the gate, kind of figuring it out, has the contract now. Maybe that pressure's off, right? Like Bo Bichette, he's getting on base, but he's not hitting the home runs, right? So,
Yeah.
and Anthony Santander, again, not hitting the home runs, prolific slow starter. That needs to change like as soon as May 1st hits, right? Like, so I think you're okay to have a lineup where you get less production in the back end, right? Because you're not going to have, Freddie Freeman's along the whole way. Like it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And teams like the Mets and even the Mets, like the back half of their line, not that great, but the top half is fantastic, right? Lindor, Alonso,
Yeah.
and Soto, right? Like that's been fantastic. And now they got Jeff McNeil. Like there's teams where you can have those top half of the lines up and the back half is so crappy, but the top half carries them so much.
Mhm.
And the Blue Jays, in theory, on paper, look like that. And now we're seeing a little bit of that emphasis shift. And it's again, it's just not exciting. And then you're also seeing these guys struggle in the bottom half. So that emphasis shift is not benefiting them either, right? Which is sucky to say, right? Because again, the team isn't without Dalton Varsho right now. You probably have him near towards the top, but he could play towards the middle, and maybe he's got that power bat that's gonna help you right. And again, he hits towards the Mendoza line, but he at least hits the ball a long way every now and then. And but Ernie Clement didn't have a great start to the year either. Will Wagner's been kind of up and down. Alvin Rodin's starting to struggle back a little bit, right? And we've seen Nathan Lukes make a couple blunders, or you're like,
Mhm.
oh, like come on, but. I think at the end of the day, you can live with that back half if the top half is doing their job. And the problem is the top half is doing like half of the job. And again, it's in, and you could see it on the stat sheets, right? Like you could see the OPS of like half the team is under 600. You can
Yeah.
see that the home run totals are down, right? The run totals are down, like, and that's a testament to that top half not doing their job to the full.
Tyson, when it comes to Bo Bichette, obviously his value is in the amount of hits he gets. But one thing that if you looked at his career, he did have power as a younger
Mm-hmm.
man, right? You look at 2021, he hit 29 bombs and stole 25 bases. There was all sorts of talk that maybe he could be a 30-30 guy, a little bit of speed, a little bit of power. That has declined every single year since 2021. And I mean, the guy has not hit a home run since June of last season. I'm well aware there's a lot of extenuating circumstances that we can put behind that, right? Obviously, he struggled with injury, struggled staying on the field last season. And really, if you're bottom half, you're struggling with it, it makes sense that he's not hitting home runs last year. We're almost into May now. Is there any sort of concern when it comes to Bo Bichette and his power level? I know that we touched on the bottom half of this order. You can get away with it not being gangbusters if your top of the order is. Bo's putting up okay numbers. Sure would look a lot better with some dingers, and I mean Vladdy's even in that category if you want to talk. And
Mm-hmm.
and Vladdy does feel like he's slowly starting to put the ball in play with more ferocity, but Bo Bichette in general, my man, where are you at on him? Do you think we're going to still see 20 to 25 dingers out of Bo? Or do you think that Bo Bichette might just be a, I, a Luis Arise?
I think 15 to
Obviously
20
more
home
power.
runs.
Obviously more power
Yeah.
than Arise, by the way.
Yeah.
Maybe not the perfect comparable, but
I think 50 to 20 home runs is a good ballpark for Bichette. I think if you get more than that, you're happy with it. Because another thing to remember, this guy's hitting leadoff, right? And
Mhm.
when we used to see him, he would, for the longest time it was Springer and Bo Bichette was kind of around Guerrero, and he still is, right? But he wasn't in that leadoff position, and he's always been an aggressive at bat, right? Like he's always just wanting to hit that thing to the moon. And we just haven't seen it yet. And I think you can play in part a little bit too. He's in the leadoff position. He hits a little bit different. He does have some dingers there from when he was,
Mhm.
back in the day. But he's also again, there's outside factors. He's got a new hitting coach. He's got a looming contract year over his head that's I'm sure weighing on him, right? Like it's a guy who's coming off a
Oh,
crappy year who needs to put it
absolutely.
together, right? Like, do the Blue Jays sign him to a huge contract extension and all of a sudden he kind of relaxes a little and hits a bunch of dingers? Maybe, right? Like 100%. We saw that from Guerrero. It almost looked like a weight lifted off the shoulders of like, I don't have to play like my future is on the line, right? And maybe that happens with Bichette, right? Whether that's here or elsewhere, right? But I think with Bichette, I'm happy with him continuing to get on base because again, the expectation is that Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander, George Springer, and Dalton Varsho to an extent are gonna drive him in,
Mhm.
right? Bichette gets on base, gets driven in, right? And if he steals a couple bases, cool, right? Like, and then again, with how way George Springer's batting, maybe do you put him back in the lean up spot, right? Like these are questions that we need to start asking because now we're seeing little production from the runs and from the extra bases, right? And we know George Springer can bat in the leadoff spot, and we also know that he can hit the home run. Do we make that change and shift everyone down a little and put Anthony Santander in the cleanup? Maybe, right? Again, I think what's interesting is that early in the season, John Schneider made that comment. He said, "We're not gonna say Bichette's going to be our leadoff batter for the entire season.
Hmm.
We're going to do this as it goes on." And I think we're at a point now where George Springer's bat, right, is good enough right now that you can go. I think we can move him back to the leadoff spot, shift everyone down a little bit, and that might help Bo to go. Okay, you see some pitches before you get in there, and you're an aggressive guy. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
it
and
may
because
change his approach. So my question then, Tyson, is if
mhm,
you're John Schneider, do you make this move tomorrow?
I make that move tomorrow, but I'm biased. I will say I'm biased because George Springer has a pretty extensive history of batting leadoff.
Hmm.
He's proven through the first month that he's hitting well,
Hmm.
which after the spring he had is
Yeah.
not right. The only thing that makes me question it is because George Springer is in the A swing mentality, does that impact him in that spot? And that's a potential question mark, right? But I personally think it benefits Bo Bichette to be the second guy to just see some pitches, right? Because even early in the season, I remember it was Richard Griffin asked a question to Schneider, and he goes, "You have an aggressive three hitters at the top of the lineup, in Bichette, Guerrero, and Santander, right? Swing the bat hard. The whiffs are there because they're power hitters to an extent in terms of Guerrero and Santander, right? Like,
Hmm.
is that gonna impact your pitchers, right? And to kind of, you just get out of a tough inning, those three guys are up, boom. Bo Bichette swings at a first pitch, grounds out. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. swings at the second pitch, and Anthony Santander strikes out on three or four. Like,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden your pitchers are coming back out, right? Like, and I remember it was Richard Griffin asked the question, and Schneider said it is in our mind, but these guys are pros and they got to deal with that, right? Like in terms of pitchers. And I flip that narrative and I go, okay, but from a hitting standpoint, does having a guy like Springer who can foul off pitches and get, or even like Ernie Clement, like even I know Ernie Clement isn't having the best start to the season. He's starting to heat up a little bit. Like he's the kind of guy that you'd almost want the first spot to just be like foul, 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 foul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just so
See
someone
some
behind him
pitches.
can go, okay, I'm watching this and I'm seeing and this is what he's
Hmm.
doing, et cetera, right? And that's the thing with Bichette is yes, the numbers are there, he gets on base, but he's so aggressive. And I think because of that aggressiveness, we're not seeing the bat hit the dinger like the home run like we've seen, right? But he's still getting a base and hitting the ball hard.
That
That's the
is
thing. So
intriguing. That is intriguing because honestly, Tyson, I did wonder that. I'm like, I wonder if part of the lack of Bo's power early on has been a little bit of a change of approach, being in the leadoff spot and going about it his business a little differently. I mean, we'll see, but I think you're onto something, and I would love to see somebody else in that leadoff spot. I mean, really, Andres Jimenez really looked like the guy I would have loved to see it. But of course, he doesn't.
if he wasn't
If,
struggling, yeah,
yeah,
he's another name too, right? Like, and I think the reason I'm so for mixing it up is because the results just haven't been there, and
yeah, like how
that's
much
not even
worse
from the
can it
records.
get? It
Well, and even from the record standpoint, right? Like 13 and 15 after the month they've had is like it's okay, right? Like you're kind of sitting there and you're going, could it have been better? Yeah. Could it have been worse? Yeah. Like they could have lost that game on Friday very easily if
Oh
Devin
yeah.
Williams just I don't know, seemed like he was like betting on it or something that he had to like get out of there. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
just giving up runs like that. Like he's struggling, right? And the Blue Jays took advantage. And that kind of goes back to the point I had earlier. When a pitcher is struggling, you need to take advantage of it. And that's what the Jays did. And who was the one who started all that? Right? Like, you know what I mean? And that kind of goes back to my narrative. Does that change need to start at the top of the lineup? And I think no, and that's not to say, like I said, that's not to say Bo Bichette's not doing a good job up there. I think it's just to get a little bit more out of that top of the lineup, especially because Springer has proven he's a guy that is hitting well to start the year. If he came out of the gate and was is spring training 2.0, then this is an absolute no, right? Like, but that's
Yeah.
not the case.
And you know what is interesting here, Tyson, is that I find that I'm kind of in this weird middle ground of what you're saying because I had and I hope he keeps going. I hope I'm giving George Springer apologies all season long, my man, because I had truly kind of hit a wall with him where I was like, maybe George is straight up washed, right? Like maybe
Right.
maybe he just can't catch up with the fastball anymore. And as soon as that happens and a guy's 35, it gets dicey fast. But he's in the month of April, he's proven me wrong, and I love to see it. And it's been such a nice surprise. And so to in the beginning of this kind of hot streak by George, all I could think is don't move him, don't do anything, just leave him where he is and let him cook. But you may have convinced me
It's a
now.
fair argument.
I
It's a fair argument because especially since the mentality with him was put your A swing on it, right?
mm-hmm.
Do you keep that mentality at the start, top of the lineup? I don't know, right? Like maybe you change it a little bit because you want to get on base, but at the same time, don't fix what's broken. So there's there's a narrative to go for and against
Of
either way, right?
course.
Like
Yeah.
and people will debate it till the end of time and call me names and whatever, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, I think a little bit of change isn't a bad thing, right? When it comes to a lineup that isn't producing on paper what you were expecting, right? Like
Yeah.
the Blue Jays pitching is what kept them in it for a good part of this year, especially since you're winning those games. Like the only way you win a 3-1 game is if your pitching limits them to 1 run, right? Like
Truly.
so I think it's just, a little bit of tweaking and tinkering, especially at home on and after an off day against a Red Sox team that you'll see this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you throw a little change up in there and you throw Springer at the top just to see if the legacy is still there, and maybe Bichette moves down and hits his first dinger. Maybe he strikes out every at bat. Like who knows, right? But I think at this point, it wouldn't be unnecessarily absurd to start tinkering with things to go, let's see what happens.
So let's wrap things up here on a positive note, all right? Because the bullpen, I mean, we've really dug into the biggest concerns here, which is the offense and how do they go
Right.
about fixing it, and maybe a change in the batting order is needed. But one thing that pretty much sunk this team last year. I mean, there were plenty of reasons as to why this team sunk last year, but the bullpen was definitely an area of need. It was a problem last year. I know that when it came to K rate, they were 29th in the league
Yeah.
last year
It was
with a
bad.
20.7% rate. And they're up to 28.7% now, which is the best in baseball, and their strikeout per walk rate 20.5%, which is also the best in baseball. Last year it was 11.3. So, you know what? They really have improved the pen. And if you kind of take out Lovelady and Barnes as those two experiments, like it's even better. How are you feeling about the bullpen? Do you think that a Jimmy Garcia, Jeff Hoffman 1-2 punch is good enough? It sure seems like it. And where are you at on the back end of the pen? And how important is that number 7, 8 guy? I know no bullpen is perfect once you go deep enough.
Yeah, I think this bullpen, because when you talk about last year, right? Like, I think a lot of people remember, or maybe they forget, like that bullpen from last year was like almost a carbon copy of the season before, and
Yeah,
that bullpen was
I
fantastic, right?
know.
And the only one
Bullpens,
they
man.
really lost was like Jordan Hicks, right? Like,
Yeah.
and they got a full season of Chad Green. Like, it's interesting to see just how that unraveled last season. Jordan Romano was hurt, Tim Mazzo didn't replicate
Yeah.
anything. Like, there's so many things that went sideways, and then this offseason, you saw them, let guys go. Like Genesis Cabrera was let go, and Jordan Romano didn't get
Mhm.
tendered. And the heading into the season, this bullpen, it was like Jimmy Garcia came back, and you're like, okay, that's good. We like that. And Chad Green was going to be your closer, and it wasn't a huge amount of moves and all that. And I think I think what's so different about this bullpen this year is you got a lot more confidence. And that sucks to say because Jordan Romano was a good closer for the Jays, but he had moments where he just unraveled,
Mhm.
right? And you weren't as confident of him going in. You're like, oh, like he's facing 1, 2, 3 in the Mets. Like, I don't know. Like versus Jeff Hoffman comes in, you're like, oh, this game's over. Like this is he's gonna do his pose. He's gonna wink at the Orioles, and this is gonna be over, right? Like, and I think with Jamie Garcia, with Chad Green, Brendan Little is an absolute whiff machine this year. Mason Fluharty, had such a tough intro to the league when he
Mhm.
when he came in those first two outings, and he's settled down really really well. I think it was interesting to see that Lovelady and Barnes got the nod over some others who did, and maybe that was just a veteran move to be like, we want some guys to get some reps in AAA. Probably wasn't the right move, but
Hmm.
it is what it is, right? And someone needed to pitch that Furburger of a game in the first opening day there, right? So I think at the end of the day, this team is really striving on the bullpen. What they're doing is meshing and working well. I know they brought in John Schneider made a really big emphasis this offseason on like we're going to bring in the right players and we're going to bring in the right staff, right?
Yeah.
And they made some tweaks in the staffing part of the pitching, right? And bringing in some different coordinators and whatnot. And I think and Jimmy Garcia, right? Like they were when Jimmy Garcia got traded last year, they told him they were like, we want you back. Like don't think of this as like a we don't want you. We're just doing this because we need to
Because
recoup
we
some.
suck and
We need to recoup
we
some
need
assets for
prospects.
you, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, like we need to recoup something. We want you back, and the feeling is mutual, right? And so I think too, you got to remember this is a team that also doesn't have Eric Swanson, who
Hmm.
when Swanson is pitching like
Good
he
point.
can, like when Swanson's pitching like he can, like that is him, little Breen Garcia and Hoffman are a crazy duo when they're all throwing like they can, right? And I know Little gets tagged up every now and then, and but he whiffs so many people, like he whiffs so many batters, and Mason Fluharty's figuring it out too, and it's going to be interesting because outside of Paxton like struggling that last outing, like there was going to be some tough decisions when Swanson's like ready to go. Like
Yeah.
it was going to be a tough call. Like Fluharty's pitching well. Like it's like it's just I don't know. It's a good thing to have, right? It's a good thing to have to be like okay, or I guess you could always send Dylan Tate down, but it's a good thing to have when you're like oh we have a really good bullpen right now, but we have
Hmm.
this guy coming back, right? So I think the confidence in them is high. I think when you have the game in your hands late in the game, you have the confidence. There's a reason Garcia came in to face Aaron Judge,
Yes.
right? There's a reason he was the guy that came in to do it and got the job done, right? Jeff Hoffman came in, closed it down, right? Like, and that's indicative. That's what we've seen all season. And I think as long as and they're not going to be perfect, right? Like, no one's perfect. There's going to be moments where it doesn't happen. Jeff Hoffman might blow a save opportunity one time, right? Like, it's gonna happen. But at least for now, the close games that the Jays offense isn't producing the runs, the bullpen is stepping up and doing what they need to do to keep that win intact. And that's crucial, right? Like if the Blue Jays mustered that rally in the ninth inning against the Yankees and Jeff Hoffman lost that game, like that would have been just like everyone been like, oh my love of God, right? Like, come on. The one thing we were confident in, like what the hell, right? So I think right now it's a great bullpen. You wrenched off all the stats that are kind of really in their favor. And if Eric Swanson can come back and be the guy that, when the Blue Jays originally traded for him, they
Yeah.
they
If he
used
can
him
be
so much.
2023 Eric Swanson, we are
Oh, he
laughing.
was this with Chad Green, with Mason Fluharty, with Brandon Little. Like this is just a crazy bullpen that, doesn't have the greatest fanfare of name. Like, it's not
Yeah.
the Class. I know he's not doing well, but the Class A's and the Cade
Yeah.
Smiths and like, the
The
Cleveland
Devin
Guardians bullpen.
Williams. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah, right. So I think it's great. It's great to see they're firing on all cylinders and whatever they're doing is working and there's no reason to fix it. And hopefully they just get a little bit better when Swanson comes back and that bullpen just continues to mesh and vibe and just do what they need to do because the starters are doing their job to a pretty good extent, barring the onesie twosies like the Gosman outing yesterday. But other than that, it's pretty firing on all cylinders.
And the dream is that they have some games where they are leading going into the seventh and eighth, and we get to use some of those high leverage weapons in that pen.
Yeah, when Jeff Hoffman has to come in because he hasn't pitched in a while, it's like,
Yeah,
oof.
not ideal,
Yeah,
exactly.
when he doesn't get anything really in Houston, you're like, oh Jesus.
Well, Tyson, honestly, man, thank you so very much for joining us this morning. I do really appreciate it and would love talking baseball with you. And very excited also that you're making the trek to Baseball Town on May 15th. You're going to be on the panel with Keegan Matheson of MLB.com and fellow Nation contributor in Nick Paleolog of Blue Jays Today. I think I got his name
Perfect.
right. Really, really tested my skills here, but
There we go.
really, really excited to have you on the show. So, for everyone who has yet to see a Baseball Town, that's going to be at Comedy Bar. That's a Thursday night. The Jays play at 3 in the afternoon, so we're baseball clear by 7. 7. Really double down on your baseball intake that day. Tickets are going to be in the description. And again, Tyson, excited to have you on the show today and excited to have you at Baseball Town on the 15th. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.